Thanks for that introduction. It's actually 29 years, 7 months and 21 days since I've been in this industry. That particular date is important when hopefully I remember a little bit later on. So, I'm here to talk about the red cyber requirements, 90 days in. It is actually 90 days today. So I thank the IoTSF for having the annual conference on this particular date, because if it had been last week, the red cyber requirements 83 days in wouldn't really have sounded so good. So I thank you for that. Right, so the red cyber requirements, how's it gone? I mean, just trying to see if I can read the room. I guess most people know what it is. I have a summary slide anyway, just to remind people what it is. And here's how I think it's gone. Beautifully. Right, I mean, and that's the end of my presentation. Nothing else to say. Right, because it's been wonderful, the birds are singing, the sky's blue, we're out there sailing in the Caribbean or wherever that is. I should also add, even though this is an AI kind of joint conference, all my images are Gemini, provided or produced, I should say. Right. This presentation is not really a presentation, it's more of a recap of my conversations I've been having with people, the stakeholders in the industry. It's also, and that's what my little disclaimer bit down there is that it's an opinion, right? And I want to hear other people's opinions, because that is something that we really need to be doing going forward into CRA, is learn from what we did in the red going forward. And it's about conversations. So, quick recap. I mean, I guess most people know what the Radio Equipment Directive is. If not, the Radio Equipment Directive is a European legislation which applies to all products that have radios in them. We had these new cyber requirements that came in. I mean, cyber requirements is actually a term that the industry has generated, because I don't think it actually says cyber anywhere in the red, and I think it says it 4 times in the Delegated Act. But it doesn't actually refer to cyber in each of the requirements that if I remember rightly. But there are 3 new requirements. They are 3.3 D, E and F. Protect the network, protect privacy or the data that's on those the devices, and also protect from fraud. I mean, there are a number of obligations. First off is that, 1st of August 2025, it's mandatory to comply with those requirements. So if there's any, I'm also an expert on body language, I forgot to mention. So I presume if we've got any manufacturers in here, you're all compliant by the 1st of August 2025? No, maybe not. All right, no, that was a joke. I'm not an expert on body language. And we have these standards, which was produced by Working Group 8 of the CELAMEC Committee, which apply to each of those standards. So how's it been? How's it been for me? Well, there you go. It's been a bit of a challenge. All right. I mean, the wonders of AI, Gemini produced this images for us. It's been like carrying a big ton of granite down a long, winding road. Of course, I'm joking. It's not really that bad. What's great about the AI is it's taken pounds off me. All right, so there you go. Anyway, it's been a challenge, and I've spoken to many people, and I think we've all seen it a bit of a challenge, because it's something completely new. Considering the Radio Equipment Directive, people have been involved in it before. We have all these historical standards, such as the radio, the EMC, the safety side of it. These are all what I call replay standards, and they are historical standards. I mean, the EMC standards have been around, well, certainly the origins of them since the Second World War. So, they've been around and been well tried and tested. It's been, like I say, it's been a bit of a challenge. And I'm going to talk about some of those challenges from the perspective of the people I've been speaking to and the customers that we have. But yeah, I'm glad you like the image. I was a bit worried it wouldn't get a laugh, but it clearly has. So, right, I can't even see my slide here. So, what was happening before? We were talking about the, what I call the manufacturer experience. We know we've got a lot of stakeholders in this particular industry. We know that industry standards are available, or they were up till about April. From April last year, it was published. I think it was April last year. But some of our customers, or some of the stakeholders, not necessarily our customers, I speak to people, they're still struggling to navigate the standards. And again, going back to these traditional standards, these were, they've been well and truly tested over the years. And I go back to my 29 years, 7 months, 21 days. On the 4th of March 1996, which was a Monday, is when I first started in this industry. And there's something that's haunted me ever since, and still continues to do so. And it was about standards. And somebody said to me, "Oh yes, you need to learn how to interpret the standard." And that has I've always struggled with it, because I've always believed, that standards were, even though I've certainly had my mind changed over the years, standards were written so you could apply them exactly to get where you need to go. So, I mean, if you look at one of these light switches on the wall, I mean, obviously it's a little bit different than cybersecurity, but one of these light switches on the wall, you'll say it complies with BS, and it's designed specifically to that standard, or some might argue it's a specification rather than a standard. But nevertheless, that is where I've always believed, and I still believe that one day we might actually get that. It might be a utopian, ideal that we will have a definitive standard that we can all apply, in its entirety, and everybody lives happily ever after. The reception of the new legislation, there's still a lot of unawareness. I mean, how I can describe that is we've had customers come to us asking about CRA. And they have radio products, and they weren't aware of the Radio Equipment Directive cybersecurity requirements. So people are still, out there struggling with it. And why is that? Why weren't they aware? Because it seems to be, certainly working in the industry, it's been talked about everywhere, every day. And I'll hopefully remember it and come back onto that when we get a little bit later. There's also the interpretation of the standards, what's in scope. There are questions that keep popping up that we've discussed. The first one is the IP question about what's internet connected. We hear this people saying, well, it's got to have an IP address, otherwise it's not internet connected. And I can see some people shaking their heads. That's absolutely right. I agree. In fact, maybe I should shut my mouth about that bit. But nevertheless, this question keeps popping up. People are looking to, I guess, maybe self-interpret so that they can, help themselves down that path. But at the end of the day, the IP question, whether it's connected or not internet connected, goes out the window very soon. The CRA. So, even though people are still trying to answer that question for them to give themselves maybe a little bit of comfort, fair enough. But that's only for now. And as you pointed out, Richard, 12th of September or 11th of September 2026, you've got an obligation to report vulnerabilities, so you need to be looking now. We've had lots of questions about what the interpretation is of what accounts for the -2 standard. What's privacy, what's processing. These things keep coming up. We could probably sit and discuss it all day. But I'm just pointing out that these are some of the questions that people are still misinterpreting or don't understand. Things like, data, location, processing, what actually constitutes privacy or private data. -3, what's applicable? Yeah, payment protection from fraud. We're getting a lot of questions from people on laptops, TVs. Are they in scope? Are they not? And I get, from 2 different schools of thought in the industry, different stakeholders saying, yes, it is, no, it isn't. Again, I'm just, passing on the messages that I found, so please don't chuck any rotten fruit at me or anything like that. We also have this issue here with the early adopters, which I think might cause us something a bit later on. And that early adopter is people that were complying with 303.645 when it was available as a voluntary requirement. They did all this work, and then the 1803, when all the Radio Equipment Directive came in, and, they've got to start getting ready for RED. Some people, the words I've heard was, it wasn't really fair that, everyone was pushing forward to go for the 303.645. They put all this time, effort, resource, money, and then, of course, they've got the 1803.1 standards came out for the Radio Equipment Directive, and they had to go and do that where lots of other people have done nothing. Again, is it fair? Is it not? I should add, I forgot to add, we've got a stand upstairs. From these questions, please come and visit us and talk to us more about it, because I'd love to hear, what you would say, or what you're thinking. I think we also might see this issue arise when we get to the CRA, because depending on which way what happens with these new delegated acts, it appears that the Radio Equipment Directive will pretty much just turn off on the 11th of December 2027. So we will have this fairness issue that might crop up. Again, I've not got the answer. I'm just passing on the messages. I've also seen a resurgence of a lot of the old questions. I mean, we certainly talked about, what is internet connected? We do have some industry organisations who are producing technical guidance notes that are hoping to, clarify some of these things, some of these questions. So I think they're good because it certainly gives people something to look at and to work with. But again, yeah, we might have all these new technical guidance from the Radio Equipment Directive, but when CRA comes along, it's pretty much all out of the window. We also, surveillance, what's happening with that? That's a question I get all the time. I don't know. I'm too scared to say. But back in the 2017 or whatever it was when the Radio Equipment Directive came in from the RTTE, we did have this kind of unofficial soft start. And I think, certainly from what I'm hearing, we're seeing that. But people need to probably be aware that in the new year, we might see a few doors being knocked upon to prove that, that you're compliant. We also had an industry standard hackathon. There has been a paper that came out of that, and there may also be some further information about, the actual outcomes of those, where various different test labs around the world, or certainly around Europe, got together and tested some of the standards. So that was kind of what was before and during that was going on. But afterwards, post 1st of August 2025, we're still seeing all of these same questions, and perhaps even more. I would even say we've had, as a company, more inquiries for the Radio Equipment Directive since the 1st of August 2025 than we had probably the previous 12 to 18 months, because people are waking up to it, they're hearing about it. And it's unfortunate. Again, nearly 30 years in this industry, this is nothing new. I've said this many, many times. And it's the nature of the industry that we work in. But I think the mood is good. I think, we're moving into the Radio Equipment Directive, but I would say generally, because there are also some people that are upset and really don't know, what to do. But I also think that the industry is appreciating the challenge that's involved in getting these standards out there. I mean, Europe is pretty much leading the way, I think, in putting, cybersecurity legislation out there compared to all these, the voluntary schemes and what other countries are doing. So I think the hat certainly needs to be tipped to what's going on in the European Union, despite the fact that it's been a challenge, and there's been, much laughter and many tears shed, I guess. But nevertheless, we still have a challenge. So that's a quick, roundup of what I've seen. I'll be certainly interested in hearing what other people have to say. And we will continue to hear these questions, and I hope to maybe produce this next presentation in 3 months, 6 months in another forum. But, what's the overall? What do we do? Right? Because there's lots of challenges, lots of weird ways of interpreting, wrong ways of interpreting, right ways of interpreting, whatever. Gemini, when I use my images, I just want to point out as well, we know that AI is not fully 100% accurate. For anybody who notices the spelling mistake, just point that out there. And I tried to tell it 10 times to fix it, and it wouldn't. But anyway, but these are all the things that we've heard. I mean, these are just as what's below the surface. And what we just advise people is, in this present situation, is assume worst case. And I think that's what we're certainly hearing from other commentators in industry. And that's be safe, because surveillance authorities, I've certainly found in my experience, are pretty happy, to help people. They're not out there to start kicking doors in and, chucking people out their buildings and what have you. But nevertheless, we have to be a bit more attentive and make sure you are basically covering all bases. Quick note about next step. Are we okay for time? Or? Yeah. So CRA is now in sight with lots of questions. People need to start preparing for CRA. Even though we've had the red and the outcomes of that, we do need to start preparing for red. Lots of questions I'm getting now is about the interplay between red, CRA, and other regulations such as, certainly the Machinery Directive, NIS2, and what's going on. And again, some more AI-generated images. I like my little red to CRA, what do you call it, hourglass. And a couple of things. People still need to start working now. Learn from what you saw in red. Apply those learnings or those challenges to moving forward in the CRA. and you need to start doing your homework, basically. I mean, I didn't mean that to sound, imperative there or like a school teacher, but people do. People need to start preparing and understanding what is ahead of them. And I guess the next chat is going to lead on to that. So I think we've come to the end of time. Hopefully maybe we'll caught up or run over. I don't know. But that's me. And thank you.